The will had everyone's name but mine. My siblings visited once a month. I never left. My brother called me ungrateful last Thursday. I was sitting in my car in the parking lot of a Walgreens holding a $340 prescription for a man who hadn't said thank you to me in 4 years. I didn't respond to my brother. I just drove home, gave my father his medication, made his dinner, and started building the spreadsheet. My name is Dolores Wynn. I'm 41 years old. I have a master's degree in healthcare administration, and for the last 4 years I have been the full-time, unpaid caretaker of my father, Raymond Wynn, who suffered a moderate stroke in the spring of 2020 and required significant support during his recovery. I left my job. I left my apartment in Charlotte. I left a relationship that probably had a future because my family said, Dolores is the one without kids. Dolores is the one who's flexible. Dolores will know what to do. They were right about one thing. I knew exactly what to do. I need you to understand something about my father before I tell you what happened. Raymond Wynn is not a monster. He is a stubborn, proud, frequently difficult man who built a landscaping company from nothing and sold it in 2015 for enough money to be comfortable for the rest of his life. He has strong opinions about everything from lawn edging to foreign policy. He called me his most capable child for 20 years and then, when capable became useful, he stopped seeing the difference. He has 3 children. Me, my brother Marcus, 45, who lives 40 minutes away in Greensboro with his wife and their 2 sons and a job he considers too demanding to interrupt. And my sister Patrice, 38, who lives in Atlanta and visits twice a year and cries at the airport both times she leaves, which everyone seems to find very moving. I moved into my father's house in April 2020 with 2 suitcases and a plan that was supposed to last 6 months. Here's what those 4 years actually looked like. I managed every medical appointment, cardiology, physical therapy, the neurologist he initially refused to see, the nutritionist he argued with constantly. I administered his medications on a schedule I built in a shared calendar that no one else ever checked. I modified the house, grab bars, ramp at the back entrance, non-slip mats, a shower chair, better lighting in the hallway because he got up twice a night and the shadows were a fall risk. I paid for most of these modifications out of my own savings because my father said he'd reimburse me and my brother said we'll figure it out and neither of them ever did. I cooked according to his dietary restrictions. I drove him to church every Sunday because he refused to stop going and I refused to let him drive himself. I handled his insurance claims, his Medicare appeals, 2 separate billing disputes with the hospital that together recovered over $4,000 in overcharges. I was good at that. 20 years working in healthcare systems administration means I know exactly where hospitals hide their errors and I know exactly how to write a dispute letter that gets read. I did not date. I did not travel. I missed my best friend's wedding in Portugal because my father had a follow-up procedure that week and Marcus said he couldn't take time off. I sent a gift and watched the photos on Instagram and told myself next year. There was no next year. There was just the next appointment, the next prescription, the next Sunday. My brother visited approximately once a month. He would sit with my father for 2 hours, watch football, eat the food I cooked, and leave saying we really appreciate everything you're doing, D. My sister called twice a week and those calls tired my father out and then I managed his tiredness. She also liked to suggest things. Have you tried that new medication? I read that music therapy helps. Maybe he needs more social interaction. She suggested from Atlanta. I implemented from the spare bedroom that used to be my life. I want to be fair. I chose this. Every day for 4 years I chose to stay. But I chose it the way you choose to keep breathing. Because the alternative was unthinkable and the people around you have arranged things so that you are the only available option. My father's will was the thing I hadn't thought about. That was my blind spot. I'd been so focused on keeping him alive that I hadn't thought carefully about what happened after. That was a mistake. I don't make the same mistake twice. I found out on a Tuesday in February. My father has a safe in his bedroom closet. He's always been open about it. It holds his important documents. His insurance policies, some cash he keeps for reasons he's never fully explained. He'd given me the combination when I moved in for emergencies. I'd used it twice, both times for medical paperwork he needed immediately. I was not in the habit of looking through it. His estate attorney called that Tuesday to confirm a meeting. She asked to speak with Raymond Wynn and I said he was resting and could I take a message and she said she just wanted to confirm the updated documents were ready for his signature at Thursday's meeting. I said of course and wrote it down and brought him the message when he woke up. He got quiet in a way I recognized. Pressing something down quiet. What updated documents? I asked. Just some adjustments, he said. I didn't push. I waited until he was asleep that night. I opened the safe. I found a draft document his attorney had mailed him for review. I am a thorough reader. It took me 11 minutes to understand what I was looking at. My father was restructuring his estate. The house, fully paid off, worth approximately $490,000 in the current market, was being placed in a trust. The trust had 3 beneficiaries, Marcus, Patrice, and a cousin named Terrell who my father had reconnected with at a family reunion 2 years ago, and who called every few weeks and took my father to lunch twice and was apparently doing very well in commercial real estate. My name was not in the document. There was a separate paragraph, a bequest, for Dolores, in recognition of her service these past years. $30,000, service. I stood in my father's closet at 11:40 at night holding a document that had translated 4 years of my life into a number, and I want to tell you I felt rage, but what I actually felt was something quieter and more clarifying. Like a fog I hadn't known was there suddenly lifting. I put the document back. I closed the safe. I went to my room and I opened my laptop and I started the spreadsheet. Here's what I built over the next 3 weeks. I am a healthcare administrator. I understand billing. I understand what care costs. I built a document that was part invoice, part case record, part professional testimony. Every appointment I had driven him to, logged with date and mileage. Every prescription filled, with cost. Every modification made to the house, with receipt. Every insurance dispute resolved, with the dollar amount recovered. A conservative market rate calculation for in-home caretaker services in North Carolina, which runs between $18 and $28 per hour depending on complexity, applied to a reasonable estimate of my weekly hours, 4 years. Roughly 35 hours per week of direct care and coordination. Conservatively valued. I used the low number. I used $18. The total, not including the apartment I'd given up, the salary I'd walked away from, or the retirement contributions I hadn't made for 4 years, came to $194,688. I had a colleague from my hospital administration days, a woman named Dr. Petra Osei, who had since moved into elder care law. I called her. I explained the situation without drama. She listened without interrupting, which is how I knew she understood the shape of it. This isn't unusual, she said. The caretaker child gets gratitude. The distant children get assets. It happens constantly. Is there anything I can do? A pause. Depending on the state, there may be grounds for a caretaker claim against the estate. North Carolina recognizes implied contract in some circumstances. The documentation you're describing would be significant. I'd also want to know if there was ever any verbal agreement, anything your father said about being taken care of in return. There was. I had not thought of it as an agreement at the time. I thought of it as something a father says to a daughter when she is giving up her life for him. I'll make sure you're all right, D. I'll make sure you're taken care of. I had not recorded it. But my father had said it in front of Marcus at Christmas 2021. I remembered because Marcus had nodded and said absolutely and then gone back to his phone. I called Marcus, not to confront him. To ask a question. I told him I'd been thinking about long-term planning and wanted to make sure we were all on the same page about Dad's wishes. Very casual. Very administrative. Oh, Marcus said, yeah, Dad updated some things. You know how he is, he likes to feel organized. Did he mention anything about the distribution? A pause slightly too long. I mean, it's his estate, D. He can do what he wants with it. That was all I needed. I retained Petra formally the following week. I did not tell my father. I did not tell Marcus or Patrice. I simply began building the case that I hoped I would never have to use but was absolutely prepared to use if it came to that. Then I did the other thing. I gave notice, not dramatically. Not in a letter with a note. I sat down with my father on a Sunday after church, poured us both coffee, and told him calmly and directly that I had accepted a position with a healthcare consulting firm in Charlotte and would need to transition out of my caretaker role over the next 60 days. I told him I had already researched 3 highly qualified in-home care agencies, compiled their ratings and pricing, and was happy to help interview candidates before I left. I told him I wanted this transition to go smoothly for him. He looked at me for a long time. What brought this on? I've been thinking about my future, I said. I'm 41. I need to think about my future. What about? I'll help find someone good, I said. I want you to be well taken care of, and I meant that. I did. Whatever had happened between us in that closet at 11:40 at night, Raymond Wynn was still my father and I still did not want him to fall in the hallway or miss his medication or have no one to drive him on Sundays. I am a caretaker. It is in my actual bones. But I was no longer willing to be one for free in exchange for $30,000 and the word service. Marcus had to take 2 weeks off to cover the gap while they found someone. I heard from Patrice that it was very stressful for him. I was in Charlotte by the time the estate documents were finalized. Petra had sent a formal letter to my father's attorney outlining the potential caretaker claim and the documentation supporting it, and noting that her client was prepared to resolve the matter privately and equitably or to pursue it through appropriate legal channels. My father called me. He was not shouting. He was using the voice I had heard my whole life, the one that expected to be the last word. This is not what family does, Dolores. I agree, I said. It isn't. A long silence. What do you want? I told him. Not everything the spreadsheet said I was owed. Not the full $194,000. I told him I wanted a fair portion of the estate that reflected the reality of what I had contributed, and I wanted it in writing, and I wanted it done before I spent another dollar on legal fees. He called me ungrateful. He said I was doing this for money, which was ironic, given the document I had found in his safe. I did it because you're my father, I said. I'm asking for fair treatment because I'm also a person. He hung up. His attorney called. Petra 6 days later, the revised document gave me an equal share of the estate alongside Marcus and Patrice. Not more. Not punitive. Equal. I did not feel victorious. I felt, for the first time in 4 years, like I had been seen accurately. Like the fog had not come back. My father and I talk on Sundays now. It's different. He is cared for well by a woman named Gwendolyn who has 20 years of experience and charges accordingly and whom Marcus and Patrice now help pay for, because that's what equal contribution looks like when someone isn't absorbing all the cost invisibly. He still doesn't say thank you. But last month he told my cousin Terrell, within my hearing, that I was the most capable of his children. I didn't correct him. Some things don't need to be argued. They just need to be documented.